I'm Kevin Coleman, reporting for the Saddle Post, and I am with the couple of members of the Chillicothe-Ross Military Tribute Museum. And Bob, if you could introduce yourself.
I'm Bob Leach, and I serve as the Vice President of the Chillicothe-Ross Military Tribute Museum. I'm also the acting treasurer right now in the community. I'm very involved with the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and after my 22-year military career, I spent 18 years as a teacher in Huntington schools.
And the public probably knows you best at the Memorial Day ceremony in Grandview Cemetery and elsewhere.
And that's been done under the aegis of the Veterans of Foreign Wars for the last several years.
So in many ways, you're the representative of the local veterans.
Correct.
Okay. And Melody?
My name's Melody Hatfield, and I am a civilian, but I have always believed that with the Veterans Park, it would be a good idea to have a military museum adjacent to it in the water building. So that has been my interest with this. I'm retired, write books, and that's about it.
And the public probably knows you well as Melody Lapczynski, the author of the book on the Carlisle Building.
Yeah, I wrote the Carlisle Building, and I also just finished a book on the Ohio Military Hall of Fame.
Which, is that available yet?
Kind of, sort of.
Okay. But you're really focused on this effort right now.
Yes, I am.
You were also active with the getting Chillicothe a Purple Heart community.
Yeah, we got the Purple Heart designation a year and a half ago at this point, and we also had a monument installed in the Veterans Memorial Park with the Purple Heart. It's a very lovely tribute to all those people who were wounded while they were in the military.
And that was a big event there.
It was a beautiful event. Lovely day, a big crowd. Very, very nice. A very nice way to recognize our veterans.
So what is the Chillicothe-Ross Military Tribute Museum? Well, Kevin, I'll take the lead on answering this one. The Chillicothe Veterans Park has existed for many years. It's on Lapczynski Boulevard. Most people know it best because it's got the very large World War II monument that was dedicated back in the early 2000s. And since then, that park is filled up with other monuments. There's the monument to the Vietnam War, which simulates the Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C., kind of the same general design. There's a monument to the Korean War. There's also a monument to our prisoners of war missing in action, to our Medal of Honor winners, to the Purple Heart designation, and currently a committee of veterans is working on the monument for the global war on terror. And then, having mentioned all those other things, the World War I monument is in the Bicentennial Park across from Ivy's on Water Street. And of course, there's the Civil War monument at the entrance to Lapczynski Park on the intersection of Paint and Water Streets. There's been a feeling in the veterans community that in some ways the Veterans Park, located where it was, kind of put the veterans in a backwater because very few people would visit that park unless there was a ceremony or something going on there. And when Melody came up with the idea to use the old building that's on Park Street, she called it the Water Building. It's actually the Chillicothe Gas Power and Light Company building. That could totally solve the problem of the veterans feeling like they'd been pushed to the side. This structure can become a museum that not only will have the stories of all 321 names that are in the Veterans Memorial Park of people that we lost in those various wars, but it could also have exhibits from all of the conflicts that Chillicothe and Ross County have been engaged in as far as sending people off to, and even going all the way back to the Revolution and taking note of the fact that many of our early settlers were veterans of the Revolution. So this museum could have exhibits that explain and interpret all of those times in our history.
And you can see from this, I don't know if I'm holding it
That's
up
good.
well enough, But right here is where the military veterans, or the Veterans Park, and all the displays and the monuments are over there.
And that's Park Street there
That is
with
Park
the dog
Street.
leg.
Yep.
Is it Chestnut Street? I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
That's Chestnut Street on the right side, and then you have Tangi Parkway curving at the bottom.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And then the water company buildings.
Right here is the current water company buildings. The Water Services Department is right here. And here is the park, the Veterans Memorial Park. And when we get this property to make it a museum, you can see that it will be one contiguous flow, that you can move from one aspect of the park to the buildings. These buildings right here, this is the existing building. These were added on at a later date. That right now they're garages that have the doors that go up and everything, but we plan on using that same form, keeping this building and then continuing it through there.
And because it's such a recognizable facade on Park Street, anybody that's driven by this will immediately recognize the building that we're talking about. And so not only are we keeping a historic, maybe even a historical building in circulation being used for something like this, but we are also making good use out of something that is contiguous to the Ross County Veterans Park.
And is in plans to be decommissioned by the city as they move facilities elsewhere.
Right, the current plan is that at some point the Water Services Department is going to be moving over to the Pepsi building. And at the time that they vacate, we have been taking all the appropriate steps that we need to be able to hopefully to obtain the water building for the use of the museum. At this point we are actually a 501c3 company now. We have a bank account established and we're moving forward. And when we were talking about do what you did, Bob, it being one contiguous thing, this is from the Veterans Park, and you can see that that's one of the monuments. That's actually the earliest monument,
Right.
isn't it? So that monument, and then you look forward and you would be able to walk in the park and walk over to the military museum,
And that
or
fence
vice
would be
versa.
gone in all the storage area.
Yeah.
Right, and eventually we look to have some military vehicles in this museum, as well as some inside rooms that have displays about the various conflicts and periods of time that Chillicothe and Ross County have had people serving the nation.
And Melody, you have some other renderings?
Yeah, actually, Simon Roderick, who was an architectural student, he just graduated. He did some mock-ups for us. This would be with the current garages the way they are right now, that you'd be able to put larger items inside there. We anticipate that we will probably be closing those off and just leaving one room or possibly two empty.
So it looks like he had a Jeep and a tank and maybe an Abrams.
Yeah,
Park
and
there.
some of those are possibly larger than what we have to work with.
Yeah.
But there are some smaller vehicles that have been used through history that we feel like we could get our hands on and have be a part of this museum down the road.
And this is a clean rendering of when you walk into the building, and you can see that it's got continuous rooms from the entranceway going back, and each one of those rooms would then house different branches, not different branches, different things from the different time periods. Bob Leach had just did a wonderful rendition of what we could do if we have 2 rooms available, 3 rooms available, 8 rooms available, of a breakout of how we would break out the Revolutionary War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and those would fall through these rooms as you walked through.